Orbital rings are a very versatile new addition to the game. They provide massive economic benefits or massive military and defensive potential. So let's dive in and find out what we can do with the brand new orbital rings. In order to build an orbital ring, we'll need to unlock the orbital rings technology. This is a voidcraft technology, so having a voidcraft scientist is going to increase the chances we can roll it. In addition to that, taking and finishing the expansion tradition will add a 25% boost apiece to rolling this technology. It also has a couple of prerequisites. You'll need to have completed the Starhold technology, that is the level 2 starbase technology. You'll also need to finish Galactic Administration from the Society tree, along with Ceramo Metal Infrastructure. Unless you have these 3 technologies, you won't be able to roll the orbital rings. On top of that, if it's before year 50, you'll actually get a 90% reduction to the chance to roll this technology. Once you have the technology, select a construction ship, right click on the world where you would like to build the orbital ring, and then you'll need to spend 1000 alloys, 50 influence, and it will be completed in the short time of 2 years. Once you build an orbital ring, it should then become visible in the skies above your planet. At the first level, tier 1, the orbital ring comes with some basic defenses, and it has 2 module slots unlocked. Now these module slots offer quite a few potential options. First off, if you have the right technology, you'll be able to build planetary defensive hangars or planetary defense guns and planetary defense batteries. Now these will all add to the military power of your orbital ring. As yes, your orbital ring does have military power, it is to all intents and purposes a starbase but around a planet. We can also put down an anchorage on an orbital ring. That's going to increase our naval capacity, though generally speaking I wouldn't actually recommend wasting orbital ring module slots on anchorages. We can throw in an orbital shipyard. This will increase the shipyard capacity of the orbital ring, and if we build lots of orbital rings and a starbase in the same system, we could construct a massive shipyard capacity in a single system, just like the Kuat space yards. The final module we can build is really quite cool. Now this is a habitation module. In order to be able to build this module, we'll need to unlock tier 2 housing, which is the anti-gravity engineering technology. Then we can start building them. Habitation modules cost you some influence and a whole bunch of alloys, but they have a very simple effect, and that is they increase the maximum number of districts on the planet below by 1. Yes, in total, you could end up upgrading an orbital shipyard all the way to tier 3 and therefore unlock 4 modules, and put 4 habitation modules down so we can boost any planet by at least 4 district size by simply building an orbital ring. In order to upgrade the orbital ring to tier 2, you will need the Star Fortress technology. Once we've upgraded to tier 2, we'll finally unlock one of the 2 possible building slots. Just like a starbase, as we upgrade it, the military power and the number of weapons on this thing are going to increase. And if you're enjoying this video, please put a ring on that like button. And now we get access to a whole host of different buildings. The basic buildings down at the bottom of this list are identical to the buildings we can get on a starbase. We could have a nebula refinery, a hydroponics bay, we could put a disruption field generator or a communications jammer down, lots of different options that are currently options on our starbases. But almost all of these are simply a military benefit or a defensive benefit to the orbital ring and the associated platforms in orbit. Because yes, I haven't mentioned it, but you can build defensive platforms on your orbital rings, and that is where the massive defensive potential of an orbital ring comes into play. Along with a fully upgraded Citadel, if we have a couple of planets with orbital rings and we max out the defensive platforms on them, they can hold their own actually reasonably well into the late game. But I'm going to get to that a little bit later. First, we're going to look at the economic powerhouses that orbital rings provide. So we can build habitation modules and increase the districts on the planet below. Great, that is a small benefit. But we also get access to a whole host of unique individual buildings that will boost the planet down below. For instance, let's say the world below is specialized for technicians and energy credits. By building a stratospheric ionization element, we can get +2 base energy credit production on the planet below, and that is really powerful. When it starts stacking with all of the modifiers and bonuses you're already getting, we can get some silly and crazy outputs. This truly gets crazy when we start looking at an Ecumenopolis world. An Ecumenopolis is a fantastic place to be producing alloys, and if you build the alloy processing facility, you're going to get a planet modifier of +1 alloys from your metallurgist jobs. That means that my people on the planet below are creating a base of 6 alloys. That's double the normal production rate for a metallurgist. On top of that, I'm able to stack a whole load of production modifiers, some from the planet itself being an Ecumenopolis, along with lots of other bonuses. And as you can see here, I'm making 16 alloys at only an upkeep of 13 minerals per population. You can combine this with habitation modules and something like the orbital filing system, which will increase the unity production from your bureaucrats, priests, or telepaths to get some massive production numbers on the planet below. This Ecumenopolis only has 82 pops on it. It isn't even full. It's a size 16 world, and we've got 9 more districts left to build, and we're already at 500 alloys and 250 unity, and it's only going to keep ramping from there. As you might imagine, there are boosts to basically all of the resources we have in the game. We can increase the minerals from miners, we can increase the food from farmers. The Gigamall is an interesting one that increases our trade value and gives us a juicy +1 amenities from clerks, which means our clerks will be producing as many amenities as a politician, which is a ruler class job. That can be helpful in a trade-based clerk empire to keep your amenities high, though if you're a trade-based empire, you've probably got plenty of merchants, so it shouldn't really be a problem. The logistics system is not quite as good as the alloy processing facility. This produces +1 consumer goods at a +1 mineral upkeep, but it is half as good really as alloy processing, as the base output for consumer goods from any pop job is double that of the base alloy output. But now we've looked at the economic potential we can add to our planet, and really this is fantastic. It is a level up for any planet in your empire, and I would always recommend building an orbital ring around every specialized world that you have. Now let's look at the massive defensive potential we can have from some of these orbital rings. Here we are in the Hixeros system. We have 2 planets very close to each other, both with orbital rings, and they are maxed out with their star-based defenses. If we look at the makeup of one of these orbital rings, they've got a whole host of defenses, as well as a defense grid supercomputer for more defense platforms, and something like the command center to boost ship fire rate. Now, we can only build one of these extra bonus modules per system, so make sure to spread them out between your starbase and your other orbitals. And then we put down a crazy number of different defense platforms I've split between advanced strikecraft and proton launcher platforms that should be able to deal with basically any threat you will find in the game. And of course, a couple of Titan Beam ion cannon platforms don't go amiss either. They've actually been rebalanced now in Stellaris Overlord and are pretty darn potent, specifically because they will stick around for longer than they used to. So across this system, I have a whopping 280k worth of defenses. That's from a Citadel starbase here, and my 2 orbital rings, which are incidentally also fortress worlds with a massive military garrison on top of them as well. So this system is very, very impregnable. But how do these new starbases stack up against other ships if someone tries to invade the system? Here I have over 300k worth of ships. This is the AI, it's coming in. They've got a majority battleships, but a small smattering of other ships. I've actually built these ships myself just to do a bit of testing. I've tried to keep it representative to an AI empire's kind of focus. They will have a mix of ships in their fleets, but I have made sure to put in some very powerful X-slot battleships that are built to my own personal specifications. So we would normally expect to lose an engagement like this. We have only star bases, no other defenses, and we have lower fleet power than the enemy. But let's let them fly in and see how they deal with our new defenses. And here they are, they've jumped into the system, and as you can see, our neutron launchers are already firing. They are at an extreme range. So let's dive in and find out what's going on. If we hover over one of these orbital platforms and we check out the details, you'll see they have a few neutron launchers on them. And on top of that, they get some massive bonuses to their ship's weapon range. This makes sure that the orbital rings can shoot an enemy basically wherever they are in the system, giving you a massive first strike advantage. On top of that, as you can see, we have fighters now launching from their base because we've engaged the enemy at this massive range. And we've got ion cannons firing as well. They are very loud in the background. These ion cannons have extreme range too, so they're able to take on the ships just as they enter. Now, let's look at the damage output. We have done some phenomenal damage to the enemy fleets, and they aren't anywhere near us yet. They haven't even been able to fire a single shot. Our neutron launchers and our ion cannons have been pummeling at these ships. We must have destroyed quite a few ships already. I am still doing more defense platform testing. This is just a small glimpse into the power that we can now achieve with defense platforms, orbital rings, and star bases. So if you're interested in seeing a full testing video on this topic, let me know down in the comments below. Our individual ships themselves are getting some nice bonuses, so we're putting out minus 20% shield hit points on the enemy fleet. I've also made sure to contract a mercenary garrison to put this lovely defensive aura for a plus 15% fire rate on one of my star bases. Combining that with the command center gives a base plus 25% fire rate to all of those defense platforms. That means the ion cannons have a 95% increase to their ship fire rate, basically doubling the rate at which they'll be firing. As they would normally have a 21-day cooldown, that is instead reduced to about 12 days, which gives them a fire rate under that of a basic neutron launcher. And given the phenomenal damage output of these things, they're going to cut through battleships like you wouldn't believe. We have actually done, it's just insane. They've only just now started firing, so your regular ships have flown into the system and they've now opened fire, the AI's ships, but they've taken massive losses before they've even been able to shoot. As you can see here, our Titan beams are doing a lot of work, firing again and again and again, and they are taking out so many of these enemy ships. We are now taking some damage. Some of our star bases have been lost, but we're doing really well. Remember, this isn't actually a balanced engagement. Our enemy has more ships than we do. If we position just a couple of fleets in this system ahead of our star bases, we'd be doing even more damage. As you've probably guessed, this defensive structure has worked absolute wonders. We have completely annihilated the massive enemy fleets that try to fly in and fight us. Here we can see their ships falling and the damage that we have done. It is absolutely wonderful. Basically, orbital rings now provide us with the ability, on top of the defense platform rework, to create very strong defensive systems in the late game, because we have finally, as a defensive player, got a range advantage, and that is really crucial here. So at the end of this engagement, it's also quite cool to notice that we've actually not lost that much fleet power. Yes, we've lost a whole bunch of defensive platforms from our primary station, but the other two stations have only lost between 2 and 10 defensive platforms, so given the fact we can build these things in record time, only 60 days, that's 2 months to build a defensive platform, by the time the enemy come back to attack us again, we'll have probably been able to completely repair our defenses. Orbital rings built in a defensive capacity are very powerful, and I think they would work fantastically with the subterranean origin, which is massively defensive as well. If you'd like to know more about the subterranean origin and how you can use it, click the video on screen now.